In 2008, a vampire and a shy teenage girl turned a series of romance novels into a billion-dollar global sensation. Don't even get us started on the cultural divide that rivaled Harry versus Voldemort, Edward, or Jacob. Fresh off his 2005 heartthrob casting of Cedric Diggory in Harry Potter Goblet of Fire, Robert Pattinson was an inspired choice to play Edward Cullen, bringing the fantasy fans into the theater. With the addition of casting a young Kristen Stewart as Bella Swan, the two lead characters for Catherine Hardwicke's adaptation quickly became iconic. Despite the film's budget being only $37 million, the film grossed over $400 million at the box office. Nice. This set the stage for its place in the pop culture history books. When the first movie of your franchise is as much of a success as Twilight was, it is inevitable that fans will flock for the sequel. New Moon arrived in 2009, hot off the trails of its predecessor, ensuring that there was no chance that they could lose momentum from the teen drama train. Again, the proof is in the numbers, this time surpassing Twilight with an amazing $700 million box office gross. Chris Welch directed the sequel, intensifying the emotional stakes and introducing the now infamous love triangle. This story expanded on Bella's emotional journey following the departure of Edward, as well as the deepening connection with Jacob Black. New Moon would improve on several aspects of the original, most notably in the visual presentation, but also expanded on the complexity of the emotional narrative. The sequel effectively deepens the saga's emotional renaissance, further engaging audiences who have become invested in Bella's emotional journey. Also, the film introduced key additions, such as the Volturi, which helped embed the mythology of the saga and allowed for more epic storytelling to come. Everything put together, this was an extremely successful movie after the foundation was laid with the first film. And the success wasn't just financial. Culturally, the Edward versus Jacob debate became a viral sensation on the internet in the early 2010s. It reached a fever pitch with fans actually having to choose sides, from buying t-shirts to even losing friends over their choices. TV shows and sitcoms referenced this strong divide in the culture. The story transcended the page and even the screen, embedding itself into popular discourse and merchandise. Even if you weren't a fan, you knew the names Edward and Jacob. The third installment is often considered the peak of the franchise. Under the watchful eye of director David Slade, the saga continues with Eclipse that came out in 2010. Slade skillfully blended the combination of romance and heightened action sequences, which not only injected a fresh new perspective into the franchise, but also widened its appeal to a mass audience. This film also gave us a more in-depth look at the secondary characters, especially with characters like Jasper and Rosalie, whose family backstory gave us a valuable insight into the world of Twilight, as well as enhancing the realism of the narrative. Though it didn't pass the box office of New Moon, the third movie still hit blockbuster status, grossing nearly $700 million worldwide, nearly the same as its predecessor. Part of the continued success of this franchise had to do with the marketing strategy of Eclipse utilizing its most popular assets. The movie's advertising team reshaped audience engagement with unprecedented social media campaigns and direct fan interactions. With the ongoing success of the franchise, it felt like nothing could get in the way of the Twilight saga being an unending success. That was until Breaking Dawn. The downfall of Breaking Dawn was just the start. While financially successful, this installment was hit with mixed reviews to say the least. There were criticisms with both the pacing as well as some uncomfortable scenes with Bella during her pregnancy and subsequent birth. Many cited the movie's over-reliance on outdated CGI techniques, particularly when it came to Bella and Edward's daughter, Renesmee. However, the controversial subplot of Jacob imprinting on Renesmee as a baby was really the kicker, and something that has continued to age very poorly through time. Behind-the-scenes challenges also exacerbated the franchise's problems. Beyond the constant director changes, hurried production schedule, and inconsistent creative visions, the narrative quality and continuity of the franchise had been compromised. Many fans went to Reddit to discuss how these disruptions caused a noticeable dip in quality from Eclipse to Breaking Dawn. This fragmentation significantly diminished the emotional resonance that this series was so well known for, which ended up alienating some of the saga's most devoted fans. Directed by Bill Condon in 2011, Breaking Dawn Part 1 turned to more mature and controversial themes, dealing with Bella's pregnancy and marriage. Its darker and slower-paced narrative polarized fans as they were more accustomed to the more dynamic storytelling of the previous films. This shift towards more adult themes also challenged the initial demographic. And while they were going older, perhaps wanting to keep with the nostalgic teen angst of the previous stories, and seeing their once favorite franchise turn down controversial alley, began critically reassessing the saga as a whole. Then came the final chapter with Breaking Dawn Part 2. Released in 2012, this movie hoped to get some of the franchise's earlier acclaim by having epic action sequences and wrapping up storylines decisively. The climactic confrontation and surprise narrative twist did offer audiences a memorable and satisfying closure, and went a small way into redeeming some of the previous installments' missteps. It achieved a remarkable box office success, becoming the highest-grossing film in the franchise with $829 million worldwide. As with any mass trend moment, there comes a time when the popularity begins to dwindle. In the case of the Twilight saga, this decline can be attributed to a couple factors. One key, of course, is the aging fan base. Twilight is very much a franchise of its time. It hones in on what teens of that era were engrossed by. But trends shift, and as the fan base gets older, some of these storylines begin to become a little more problematic. This is proven in the critiques of the saga's portrayal of romantic relationships. As the movies progressed, Bella and Edward's relationship became more and more scrutinized due to its portrayal of controlling behavior as well as problematic relationship dynamics. Once perceived as intensely romantic, Edward's protective yet possessive control over Bella, as well as Jacob's endless pursuit over her, has left a maturing audience feeling a little uneasy. These problematic examples are further amplified by Jacob imprinting on Renesmee, who was a baby, as well as their portrayal of the Quilleti tribe. This drew accusations to the franchise of cultural misrepresentation and appropriation. The Quilleti tribe are a real indigenous American group from the Pacific Northwest. The Foundation uses this tribe as the foundation for the werewolf characters, but by blending fantastical fictional elements with real-world cultural practices, this led to accusations of cultural appropriation. The tribe's traditions, stories, and spiritual beliefs were used without actual consultation, leading many to think that this depiction was shallow and stereotypical. In addition, the Quilleti were given a largely supernatural identity, rather than any representation grounded in their actual heritage. Many people criticize the series for commodifying and exploiting the indigenous culture without respecting or honoring its heritage, and have cited these as demonstrable failures on the studio's part, significantly impacting public perception. Another issue that caused fans to fade was its noticeable directorial change in vision from film to film. Catherine Hardwicke's departure after the first film due to scheduling conflicts made the subsequent sequels shy away from that indie feel from the first film. Instead, they would go for a more conventional blockbuster style and lose the charm that made the original so good. The aging visual effects compounds these issues, with the CGI elements becoming increasingly criticized for its lack of realism. Could the Twilight saga's downfall have been avoided? Arguably, yeah. A more focused and consistent adaptation strategy may have sustained that initial excitement that drew fans in from the original film. Addressing controversial plot points, such as Jacob imprinting on a child, or the misrepresentation of the Quilleti tribe, with greater cultural sensitivity may have mitigated some of the backlash. A deeper collaboration with Native communities and cultural consultants may have led to a more respectful and authentic adaptation. Additionally, investing in better visual effects as well as not using them as much, especially for elements as the now notorious growth spurt scene, could have significantly alleviated both critical and audience frustrations. The inconsistency in terms of tone and storytelling between directors may have fractured the emotional continuity that drew fans in initially. If they had maintained the same directorial vision throughout the 5 films, there may have been a more emotional consistency from the beginning. All that being said, the saga's box office results is nothing short of remarkable, grossing over $3.3 billion worldwide. Twilight remains as the most financially successful vampire franchise of all time. Despite the downturn, Twilight's cultural significance remains undeniable. It not only sparked a wave of supernatural teen adaptations, but also is responsible for memes, parodies, and even other franchises such as the 50 Shades of Grey. Today, there seems to be a subtle renaissance of interest in the franchise. Thanks to streaming platforms, Gen Z audiences discovering the franchise now, Gen Z's obsession with the franchise is seemingly a mix between irony and genuine affection. Twilight continues to invoke strong reactions, both from a nostalgic perspective and critical reevaluation. How do you feel about the Twilight legacy? Do you think that different creative decisions have maintained the popularity of the franchise? Would you welcome a reboot or even a continuation that reimagines these controversial yet beloved characters? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and be sure to keep up with ScreenRant to get more insights and deep dives into your favorite franchises.